got the Mira running, got it all cleaned up, took it for a wee drive. It's ridiculously quick. It's so much fun to drive. But the main issue we're having now is that it will not idle at all. So we need to sort out the idle on this thing. It will not sit and just put away. So if it's going for its MOT, that'll never work. The current thought with it is just possibly ignition timing and spark plugs. These spark plugs, if you remember, were really rusty. I was noticing just when we were like sat idling, it would sort of had that burble of every, say, third spark. It was just missing slightly. So I'm going to take the distributor off, clean it up. I got a set of spark plugs for it. Thankfully I only had to buy 3. We'll swap the spark plugs out, clean up the distributor. I'm going to take the intercooler off and I'm going to try and set the ignition timing properly. And hopefully with all of that, the car will sort of run and put around and idle nicely. If that doesn't sort it, I'm not sure what we'll do, but I'm sure we'll get it figured out. Be the least of our problems at this point. Oh, right, so I've been playing around with it for a bit. Unfortunately the spark plugs I got weren't quite right, so they couldn't go in. I cleaned up bits of the throttle body and I cleaned up the distributor. But unfortunately, it's just still, I can get it so it actually idles now. But it's just hunting. So, just dropping, picking up, dropping, picking up. Right, so a bit of explaining to do. I went to take this thing for a, sort of a better drive. I've got it tax insured and everything. And I thought, something's not quite right. I don't know if the cooling system needs bled. It just wasn't running 100%. So I thought, I'll take it for a bigger drive, get the camera out, and all of that. So I started taking it down the road. Hadn't started filming yet. Was waiting until I got to a nicer sort of spot. And then it started misfiring like crazy. If I was on boost, it seemed to be okay. But if I was just cruising, it would just sputter, it just sounded like it was missing the whole time. And that was sort of what we were seeing when we were trying to get the car to idle. It was just missing. So I got home and I thought, let me pull a spark plug, see what's happening with the spark plugs. Maybe that'll give some indication on what's happened. Maybe it's overfueled, maybe spark plug's fouled, something. I went to pull off the spark plug lead and it left this behind. So the spark plug lead just totally fell apart. Yeah, so I picked up a new set of leads and a new rotor cap for the distributor. So I'm going to throw those on and see if it makes any difference. I also really want to get new spark plugs because these are the ones that have been running since when the engine was bust. And I doubt they're still in good nick. The problem is I need to order new spark plugs from Japan and they're like, it'll end up being like £100 for a set of spark plugs for this, so I'm kind of putting it off. I also don't really have the money this month, so I think I'm just going to hope swapping the HT leads were failing and swapping them out will sort us out. Same with the distributor cap. I'm hoping that'll help some of the misfiring problems, even just give it stronger spark so it can survive a bit better. So we'll get this torn apart and we'll start putting on the new leads. I think there used to be a heat shield that went over the turbo right here, and I think these are actually just getting too hot being right here because they're quite close to the manifold. So I think before I take it on a big drive, I should try and make a heat shield to just bolt onto these little studs down here and just come up and over just in between the wastegate here and this line. Just come over there, right angle down, should hopefully prevent that from happening. I was also thinking of adding another engine ground, because I could go from this point and ground it over to the chassis, or maybe even just straight to the battery, just to try and help the engine actually ground itself. I could maybe pick somewhere else, just on the head. You know, I could even go from that point there down to that chassis leg or across, just to try and help the spark get a little stronger. Yeah, so I picked up a second-hand throttle body. It's pretty disgusting. I think it's off a naturally aspirated one, so I'm not sure if the butterfly valve will be the same size, but we'll see. Worst case scenario, the idle air control valve and the throttle position sensor is all the same as what's on there. So should be able to swap this over and it'll just rule out, is it something with one of these sensors with the throttle body that's causing the issue, or is it ignition based? It could also be fuel pressure, which I haven't looked into yet. I think I might put a fuel pressure regulator on the car and just see if that has any effect on it, but unless there was no fuel pressure, you wouldn't think it would affect it at idle. You think it would idle fine, it might not run right at high RPMs, but it's maybe something to consider because of the extra displacement we've got. First things first, I'm going to strip this down, get the throttle body off. I'll probably clean up the new one, whack it on, and we'll start it and see if it makes any difference. Yeah, so I got them both off. They're exactly the same. So I think I'm going to clean the new one up, pull it apart, put it back together and throw it on, see if there's any improvement. Got it all cleaned up. But yeah, there was loads of crap in here, and I took the idle air control valve off and cleaned all inside it. It was just full of all old oil and grease that had got into the intake. So it's looking a lot better now. I'm going to go throw it in. I need to try and find a way to really properly bleed this. I think probably leave one pipe off, wait till it starts coming out, and then stick the pipe back on, because all it is just a pass through there. So I need to make sure this is properly bled, because it probably won't work otherwise. Alright, let's see. Oh. Seems a lot happier. Oh, that actually seemed to run a lot better. Let's see. So, it's been a long time since I've touched this car. Well, a few weeks. We've tried pretty much everything to get it to run right. We've double checked time and checked over pretty much the whole engine, checked the electronics, even replaced the full throttle body, made sure the coolant system's bled, tried taking it for a decent drive, and it's still not happy. Basically, what I've done, and like we've replaced pretty much the full ignition system as well, I've eliminated all the possible causes. So we've got compression, the electronics are good, spark's good, the intake and all's fine. The only thing that's really left is fuel. Now, obviously it's a fuel injected car, so changing how much fuel goes into the engine isn't easy. I could put a full standalone in it, and I'd like to at some point, but I think that might be a step too far for right now. If I can't fix it without that, then that's what we'll have to do. But I think for now, I just want to try putting a fuel pressure regulator in it. So all this does is just change the pressure that's in the fuel system. But it gives me a very rough way of adjusting how much fuel is going in the engine. Like, it's not precise, it's not the best way to do it, but you know, if the pressure's higher when the injector's open, a bit more fuel will come out. What I'm hoping is, because the ECU in this was designed for the 660 turbo engine, and we've now got the 1 litre turbo in it, that just turning up the fuel map will still be right. It's just if it just injects a wee bit more each time to compensate for the larger capacity, the car will run properly. Yeah, I don't really know what I'm doing. It's the first time I've ever stuck a fuel pressure regulator in a car, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, I'm just gonna kind of mess about with this and see. Like, I'm gonna keep it so we can undo it if we want to. And I'm basically just going to see if I adjust the fuel pressure up, down. I'll probably aim for about 40 psi standard and work my way up, you know, 40 psi baseline and work my way up to maybe 50, just seeing how it runs. Might even start at 45 and just, you know, start the car, let it idle, see is it happy enough. And if we're changing the fuel pressure and it's making no difference, then I'll probably just pull it out again and go back to stock and basically just try and have to figure something else out. So I'm gonna basically just pull all the old fuel lines out of the engine bay, because we've got like a hard line that runs up here, and all that needs to come out, and I'll find a place to mount the fuel pressure regulator. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Yeah, so got it all mounted up, got it in there nice and secure. This is the feed coming in, and then it tees right here, comes in there. This is the pressure regulator. You adjust it by winding this in and out. That just locks it. This is the air line that ramps up the pressure when you're under boost and brings it down when you're under vacuum. And then we've got the gauge right here. It is upside down. I should probably fix that if I can. But we're basically looking for like about 40 psi initially. So we'll set the base pressure here by just letting the fuel pump prime a couple times. I assume that's how it should be done. And then once it's set around sort of 40, we'll start it up and see what it's like. Oh yes, it's a wee bit under 40 there. Yeah, and then just check. Oh no, we've got a leak. Shit. So, actually, okay, so that pipe leaked. Let's see what that tells me is that, so we've still got the original fuel pressure regulator in place, and it's obviously let off pressure. I think what I'm actually going to do is just pull this out. So whatever that's set to, is like the original fuel pressure. The original fuel pressure is about 40. Because it's leaking out here. So it's like I saw it spiked there through the camera. But that obviously just went out the return. Oh yeah. Shit. Covered myself in fuel. I've got the new clamp on now. Let's see what the baseline pressure is with the regulator in place. It's at 50, looks like. Double check got no leaks. Oh, it didn't like when I turned it down there, but it seemed. Okay, so that's set at like a baseline of about 40. Should be a good bit more than it was before. I think we can always adjust it up more and see how it likes it. Reattach that. You can see it's breathing a bit heavy, and I'm hoping with a bit of driving it will take care of that. So I don't know what we've last done on the Mira. It's been a few weeks since I've been working on it. I've just been busy with other cars and bikes and everything, so I'm now starting to get back into it because I want to get it running right. It's so close to being perfect that I may as well finish it off there. So the next thing to do, I've got the fuel pressure regulator in. The car seems to be running better, but I'm not sure if the fuel pump can keep up with the higher pressure. So I've ordered an RX-7 upgraded fuel pump. I'll have to put that in the tank. But for today, I want to make a heat shield up for the exhaust manifold. Last time I tried driving the car, it melted the spark plug wires on it because they sit right above the turbo and the exhaust manifold, and I think it just got too hot because the original heat shield withered away into nothing. So I'm going to try and make up my own one. I hope it comes out neat. I'm worried it'll come out pretty messy. So I'm going to do my best to try and do a half decent job on it. I think I'm going to take some of the original bolts for the exhaust manifold and maybe for the water feed, and make wee L brackets, so then I can weld a nut to that and put a bolt down through it, and then I'll probably just put a plate on top, bend the edges down around it, and then hopefully that'll be sweet enough. Yeah, so first things first with it is I need to get some brackets made up and figure out where it's roughly going, cut out the shape for the top plate, drill any holes in it, weld any nuts on and bolt it through. hopefully it's not too bad. Hopefully I can get it done today reasonably quickly. Right, so my camera died yesterday, but I got it all sorted out. So what I've done here is made up 2 EL brackets here, welded a nut on the back of it just very quickly, drilled some holes in, so this will attach up to the exhaust manifold, and then onto the other piece, which is this. So I just folded up out of a bit of sheet metal. Again, not the neatest signal, you can see the holes are a bit skew with, but it's just to protect the turbo, well, heat shield the turbo off from the plug, so I'm going to fit that up now. We'll see how it looks when it's done. So these brackets fit onto here and here, and that just gives us something for the heat shield to bolt up to. So that's how it looks right now. You can see this is sort of uncomfortably close right here, so I might look at bending this front edge down a bit. I've turned up the pressure quite a bit more than I thought. I thought I might add a couple of PSI to it, maybe change it from 40 to 45. Looks like we might have gone from about 45 to 60. I don't know if that's too much. Never done it before. But I started to question if the fuel pump can really keep up with it. So I bought myself an upgraded fuel pump here. This wee unit, apparently it's 340 litres per hour. Don't know how good it is, but I'm sure it's better than what's in there. These probably came with minuscule fuel pumps, so now we've got the fuel pressure up. I don't know if the fuel pressure is where it's going to be sat permanently. I still need to take it out and properly test and tune it. I might do that in the morning. But for the time being, it seems to be idle and happy enough. When I was just giving it a few revs and a few blips and all, it seems to be the happiest where it is now. Any more and it starts to bog down and become very sluggish, and any less and it seems to struggle to idle a bit. I think it's a bit too little fuel, so it seems pretty happy here, but I don't want to go take it for a big drive with the fuel pressure turned up that high, because I'm worried once you add 10 pounds of boost, if it's sat at 60 base, it'll be at like 70 odd, and I really don't know if the stock fuel pump can hold up, so I don't want to create a lean mixture whenever we're under boost. So I'm gonna stick this fuel pump in it. I had a look, I took the back seat out just quickly, and there's no hatch, so the fuel tank has to come out in order to change it. But when I was getting ready to go and drive the car about, of course I filled the tank, so I have to drain the entire fuel tank out, and I've backed the Corolla up to it. The Corolla is almost on empty because I don't have 30-40 litres of fuel safe storage, so I have another car and I'm just going to dump all the fuel into it. I'm going to keep the fuel filter on, so basically the plan is just to take the fuel feed off the engine, keep the fuel filter and all on it, so I'm filtering nice fresh fuel into the Corolla, and they just attach a big hose to it and stick it in the fuel fill of the Corolla, and hopefully the Corolla should have the majority of a full tank by the time we're in. And I'm just going to jump the fuel pump, so the fuel pump pumps it out. So yeah, let's get started with that. So here you can see we've got the fuel filter there, got the fuel feed coming in here, the fuse box down here, and this empty relay spot is the relay for the fuel pump. You can see the wee diagram for it here. See that switch, the 3 and the 4. So we'll match that to those pins, and we want to jump 3 and 4, and that'll just close off the connection and kick on the fuel pump. I pulled it out and started the car, so we have next to no fuel pressure in there. There's still a couple of pounds, so I might try and start it again. But it just means I won't spread myself with fuel. So I bought a 2 meter length fuel hose here. Now you're just going to connect it onto there and stick it in there. It's just long enough to get in, and then we should be able to literally just watch the fuel gauge on the Mira drop, and should be good to go. Right, so I'm going to get all this connected up now. Oh, I think I hear it. Oh yeah, I can hear it filling up the crawler. Right, so I'm going to try and drop the fuel tank out now. I've let the bolts for it soak overnight in some WD-40. And I'm going to hit it with some fresh. Yeah, they look a bit crusty, so I really don't trust them. But hopefully it's alright. Because these are not bolts that you want to have to drill out, because they go into the chassis. Let's see. It's always one of those things, when you use WD-40 and it works, you don't know if the reason the bolts are coming loose is because you used WD-40 or if they would have been fine anyway. But it doesn't hurt. These actually seem to be coming out real nice so far. Although I don't want to speak too soon. So I got the fuel tank out and gave it a wee clean, and I've just loosened off these, so I'll pull the fuel pump out and see what we're dealing with. Hey, it looks real clean in there. Even that fuel pump looks really good. That's good news. And there's a wee baffle and all in there. Still a bit of fuel there, but not a lot at all. It's real clean, like the slightest bit of surface rust. I zoom in. See how shiny it is? It's pretty good. So we've got the original fuel pump there, a new one here. It looks identical. It's slightly taller. So I might need to sort something out here. You know, like just cut that. Yeah. Although, I don't know. I might just slip straight in. Let's see, let's take this apart. The old one there. New one. I mean, they look identical. If I can swap all this stuff over and literally just stick it in. The plug is the same. Plug just goes straight in. Real question is, can we get this end cap on? Not quite so easy. The new one is slightly longer, but it's not the end of the world. The only problem with that is there's no going back once I do this. So what I'm going to do is literally just slice this right there so I can sit that at the right height and just put a pipe on there. Right, so that's the new fuel filter on. Just got that pipe cut off, stuck a little bit of silicone, or well, fuel rated pipe that's just the right length so that this sort of holds it in place so it's not going anywhere. Yeah, so the way that was done, it means that we've actually got the exact same height in the tank, so we don't have to worry about like the level in the tank getting too low and not picking up fuel. So if you want to do this, buy an RX-7 fuel pump. That one was Chemzo upgraded fuel pump, so I don't know if it would make any difference having a different brand, but I imagine they're all the same if it's made for an RX-7.